So as this grows exponentially, this is going to be kind of the new playground for a lot of the extended stuff that it's doing. Interestingly enough, Penrose, who's a very famous physicist, actually believes that the human brain has quantum properties about it. And he actually wrote computing properties. He actually wrote a paper about it. It's a pretty cool paper. It's very complicated. All right. Synthetic biology is where you start using technology to manipulate and change organisms. Okay. So basically, you do things like de extinction. You can do things like add new capabilities. Like, for example, what if you want to regenerate human tissue? Or what if you want to be like a chameleon and have cells that actually can change color? In fact, there was an experiment that was done where they took human tissue and they took cells that were in an octopus, and they were able to hybridize those cells together and give the human tissue the ability to look like a chameleon. That's why I recommend this book from George Church, Regenesis, because he actually goes through a pretty rigorous a set of different things that people could do to kind of change the way that human biology works or any biology works to accommodate. A very closely related topic is nanotech, and I also say material science. Okay. This is something that the press doesn't talk about as much, but actually I think is just as meaningful. And it has a huge connection to all of these topics. Why? Because what nanotechnology basically allows you to do is change any physical thing into a computer. At some point, you can do that. So any surface, so imagine that you're at a restaurant, and at that restaurant, you have a table. Okay, so you guys are together. So ordinarily, your experience at a restaurant is that you have menus. Well, what if the surface itself, and there really isn't a notion of punishment where and when you can do these types of things? And that's really the superpower of blockchain technology, is that it lives in that space of a synthetic natural law where it can take things that we would like to have, encode them in just the right way, and then suddenly make those things immutable. Well, why is this relevant to the other components? Well, if you have nanotech capabilities and synthetic biology capabilities, what you can do is digitize the physical. So you can put in your biological systems and your physical systems, that table at the restaurant, your car, all kinds of things, basically a computing layer that will act according to these laws and social consensus that we have as if it was the laws of physics. Treat them like gravity and say you cannot violate them. You have to be sufficiently powerful in the old order, when we talk about the physical sense, this order right here, to punish people for a lack of compliance. Well, the only entity that would be powerful enough to do this on a global scale would be a one world government, which is why under ESG you have things like CBDCs. Okay? So what's really happening there? That says a central bank issues the currency and controls the flow and distribution, and then you combine it to social credit. When you have these things together, what translates to is if you don't do what the ESG order says, your money gets shut off. Just like your Facebook page gets shut off if you don't say the things that Facebook likes. Just that simple. So That is the current trajectory of the 21st century without blockchain technology. It's just that simple. You need a regulation layer, a governance layer, if this is the goal. You have a panopticon where the AI, especially a quantum enabled AI, will have the ability to know if you're in compliance or not. The problem is that they don't have a regulating layer. And ESG is a subset of these four horsemen of the 21st century. And people are very concerned that they need a regulating layer. So what's happening is that there is this meta government being constructed basically in secret, now actually much more public, to act as a regulating layer for these types of things. And you see it with the movement towards CBDCs and social credit. You see it with all these transnational agreements that are being signed. You see it with unification of languages. You see it with the efficiency of a one world response to things like COVID, where most people kind of got along with these lockdowns and other things. It's happening. It's not an optional thing. And what concerns me is that I don't elect these people. I have no say in their value set. Uh, the people that are building these things have not really talked too much about equality outside of using it as a weapon to kind of make people hate each other. And there's no preservation of rights. And when people who are designing these things that say China is it gives you control of your voice. So for voting, it gives you control of your privacy. Okay. Shouldn't that be just awesome? Shouldn't everybody want that? But then you see on Twitter, you see on media, you see floating around all these people basically saying there's no use case. What they're really saying is we don't value our sovereignty, the self sovereign part of that. We don't value our control over these things. We're totally fine with living in a system where these people at the top basically run everything. And they'll just decide what I'm allowed to own. They're going to decide who I am as a person. They're going to decide how to share that with other people, what level of voice I have, and ultimately my human rights. Okay, my freedom of association, commerce, and expression. The ACE thing. They get total dominion and control over that. What a blockchain does is it says no one has control over that. We are going to make natural law into digital systems human rights. So, in essence, this is the terminus of the Enlightenment. It's basically where all these thinkers in the 17th and 18th century were headed towards some sort of engine that would define immutable characteristics of humanity and encode them in a way that religions, governments, and individuals could not violate. And doing this in the right way with the right protocols and AI behind it basically guarantees that we live in a fair world and a transparent world, in a world where the human condition improves. I don't see a way out of this. I don't think any reasonable person does. And if you actually read these books, you'll start seeing the pieces connect together.